See, we're 0.00065. Is in that vicinity.
I think when they're little,
When there only be
grandpa, you know, but I think when they get so older, their friends are more
14 to 15
Bobby
blocks.
and then
Right.
one of the next neighbor.
Here.
So
That's right.
would be
Just says five.
oh, Wayne?
There you go. His job is going to end on the 28th.
Right, well, and on our primary,
Not 100%, but he's planning to fly out there.
28, one,
Take a trip to Green, and so on the city.
that's how we figured the assessment. That one went up $800 too. On our primary. Oh, it was kind of.
Are you taking pictures? Just quit that.
Yeah.
It's
Stapled one, it could be maybe. Yeah, our primary went up too.
everybody else.
Because we went up on both of ours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you have to be in this category.
It would be in this one.
Special, right?
I mean, they said.
Well, you know, as far as I know, I haven't talked to her for a long time. Usually we email quite often. But last email that I sent her, I haven't heard back from her, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think the reason why is because
Busy with her
narrower, but the length is the same. But his house runs this way, and yours runs this way. Yeah.
I think she's been busy doing that.
Will I hear from you? Huh? No?
Well, we have to go. This has to go.
Like do a voucher? By surprise or wedding gift?
Yeah. You got any?
No, this one's mine.
Oh, this one is Nicole.
Oh, okay.
I think the baby is thinking.
Yeah, we'll look at that. Okay. I'm just here to listen.
All right, good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order. So if you can't hear me, there's not that many people here during the meeting. Just let me know and I can speak up a little more. We'll call the special assessment public hearing meeting to order. My name is Sue Winter. I'm on the committee along with Dennis Van Herm and Mark Lau. I'm just going to go through, each of you has, I think, this sheet that talks about the street projects and kind of the definitions that we use. And I'm going to go through this sheet, go over that information, and then at the end, if people have questions about specific things or they want to protest their assessment, then we'll go from there at that point. Just some definitions that we use. The district that was used in this assessment was all property residing within the Washburn city limits. And the assessment factor was a parcel square footage was used to determine the assessed value of the property. We had some different categories of property. We don't necessarily use zoning. We use kind of what the use of the property is for. So we have residential, that's property intended for use of owner-occupied housing, including single-family homes and duplexes. We have commercial, which refers to property intended to generate a profit from either capital gain or rental income, and not intended to be used as residential or agricultural property. We have agricultural, and that's land that is currently zoned agricultural and can be used for agricultural purposes. We have government land, that refers to property owned by like the city, the county, school districts, and other government entities. The primary assessment, this district includes all parcels within the city limits that directly touch the project. And then 50% of the total pavement projects went to the primary, 50% of that went to the secondaries. The secondaries are those parcels that don't touch the project. Our first project was a street improvement district, and you can read there that it talks about the different numbers. There's numbers for construction, engineering, The city contributed to that project, so the amount that was assessed was $1,415,703.79. And so with that, we had some caps that were put on. The primary residential and agricultural property assessments will not exceed 0.005% or $7,078.52 of the total cost for the primary. Primary commercial properties will not exceed, there's a percentage there, but it came out to $15,218.82. There were caps for secondary as well, residential agricultural caps. The amount was $2,477.48 for the secondary, and commercial property on the secondaries, the cap was $10,617.78. The cost per square foot for the non-cap properties, the primary was 69 cents per square foot, and the secondary was 0.036 cents. We did something with the corner lots. These are corner lots that did not have both sides of their lots in the project. So primary corner lots had one side of the project and the primary were assessed at full assessment. If the front of the property, the address was on the project. If the side of the property was on the primary, they were assessed at half the square footage. Okay? And this method was only used for residential properties. Okay. The next project we had was our water improvement district. You can see the numbers there. Our total amount to be assessed was $445,424.50. How we assessed this was per parcel. So each parcel got $14,200.77. We had a trailer park in that. We did one assessment for every 2 trailers. So if they had 2 trailers, they got assessed for 1 user for each of those 2 trailers. Okay. The sewer improvement district, the amount to be assessed on that was $488,978.73. And that district, again, was assessed per user. Each user, on average, received an assessment of $11,272.66, and the trailer parks received 1 assessment for every 2 trailers. And that's how we came up for the numbers for the special assessments. Now, does anyone have questions that we can answer about how we came up with that or the different projects?
I have a question on the sewer part. My sewer line goes into 8th Street.
Okay.
And 8th Street, there was no sewer improvement done on 8th Street. And I'm just wondering, you know, if that was taken into consideration as far as where your sewer line actually goes.
What we looked at is if you were hooked up to a sewer line on the projects, that's how we did it. So if like some properties had 2 sewer lines, they got 2 users because 2 sewers were assessed.
Well, my question is, you know, my sewer line I think goes into 8th Street. 8th Street is not part of the sewer improvement. And I'm just wondering, you know, whether your committee took that into consideration.
Were you hooked up to a sewer directly?
Well, I'm hooked up to the sewer via 8th Street, which was not, there was no sewer improvement there.
We'll have to look at your individual property.
Yeah.
On the map and things like that to see that if you got a hookup or not for the project on it.
Yeah, well, I was just kind of wondering how that, you know, if committee took that into consideration as far as where your sewer lines actually went as far as hooking up to the main.
Merle, there was a sewer line that was hooked up on your additional parcel.
Pardon me?
On yours, you have a second parcel, it looks like, and it's something that we could verify with the engineer. But according to the as-built on the additional parcel that you have on the other side of your home, there was a sewer line that was hooked up.
But that is not included in the figures that you have. That's lots 4 and 5. And that's not included in your special assessment for the sewer or the water. And I don't have any water or sewer there either. You know, there isn't any service there.
I just have this to go off of, so it's something we just have to check with the engineer.
We'll have to check with the engineer on that one.
Okay.
If you didn't have a sewer hookup, then we'll have to look at that.
Okay.
Who's your engineer?
A2S Engineering, they were out of Bismarck. They've been the city engineers for them.
Is there a reason why they weren't here today?
We haven't had them here the past couple assessments, so it was just a matter of we did not have them here, I guess.
Okay, and I have another question too. The alleys behind Memorial Hall and behind the post office were not included in the description of the property that was going to be paved, but they were paved, and I'm informed that the cost of that was included in the total cost of the pavement project. And my question is, how did that come about? How did it come about that that was actually part of the project when it wasn't listed as being such in the first place?
That,
I don't believe it was supposed to be part of the project. I thought it was separate.
Pardon me?
I thought that was supposed to be separate. That's the way I understood it.
Behind the Memorial Hall building was part of the project,
Was it?
but the other portion, like you say, wasn't
Oh,
part
you're
of
right,
it.
Memorial Hall was, but
Yeah.
the behind
Right.
the post office wasn't.
Okay, well, how did it get to be part of the project?
I have no idea.
The city, it didn't go through the city?
Not to put it as part of the project, no. No. We should also check in.
Are they a primary then, those people that are on, in the alley?
right, what we did for the alley is everyone who had an alley property then was the primary
Okay.
for the project, yep. Yep, that would be a question we'd have to look at, because what we do was, we're brought the amount that has to be paid and what properties were on it, so we'll have to look into that. I don't know the answer to that. I'm assuming you don't know the answer to that. Does anyone else have any other questions, comments?
Speak up.
I did already.
You better speak to
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
And you were talking about the 2 sewers? Is that what you-
Yeah, right. One water line and 2 sewers.
Okay. Let's look at the map and things like that for yours, but why don't we come up ever, well, we went off, we did meet with the engineer and things like that to make sure that there were actually 2 sewers, and they had said that.
I know there's not 2 sewers.
Right, but we can discuss and see what we need to figure out to make sure that we're giving you a correct assessment. Just want to make sure what we're doing is correct.
Because we did bring it up with the engineering, because we looked through the plan, and they said that when they went down, and they were trenching and going to hook up, they said that there was 2 wet sewer lines coming from your property. So they hooked them both up, because they didn't want to run into the issue of not hooking one of them up and then it backs up into your house, and then there's a liability there. So that's what we were told when we brought up that issue with, because as we looked through all the assessments and the properties, we questioned why there was 2 sewers coming from the property. And then that was.
There was always one house there.
Yeah. We
Before we
raised the
built.
question, and the engineer come in and explained to us that there was 2 wet sewers coming, so they hooked 2 of them back up, just to make sure that they weren't missing something. So.
Did they say how close they were or anything, or how far apart they were, or?
They're on the as-built, there's one on each lot,
Okay.
on each parcel.
I'll have to look at that.
Yeah.
I have a inquiry, I guess, as to our secondary property that we have that's known as the Hagel property. Everybody else knows it in town. On the secondary assessment, we've received the cap. And to that particular property, we don't have any sewer. There's some water that goes, the city water goes across, and there's city water access to the house. But there's absolutely no sewer that it's hooked up. We have to have, it's a septic system that we have to have drained. Therefore, we were issued the cap of 2477.48. And I'm wondering why that would be, because when we initially bought the property from the Hagel family in 2011, the taxes on there are $800. Since this last year, our taxes on that property are $3,100, which is $200 below our primary.
Okay, so are you saying you got a sewer assessment on there? Or you're just talking about the street, because there's, the 3 assessments.
Well,
you're talking
we're
about
the-
the street?
The street project actually started on the, what side would it be? By the grain bins. The
Okay,
grain bins that are down there, let's just say, you know, it started on that side. And so basically our primary use is for our own house. It's not, you know, and I understood Joan did a great job explaining to Eric and I on the phone the other day in length, some of the numbers and, you know, where they were derived from.
okay.
But again, there's no sewer hookup to that property or, you know, because they started it and they went down Main Avenue.
And you got a sewer assessment?
No, for
We got a secondary secondary.
secondary.
You're just secondary
pavement.
pavement, so you didn't get any sewer water assessment then?
Right, but the
Right, okay.
pavement actually started, even the pavement or the sewer, what have you, started on this side of the driveway, the west side of the driveway.
That would have been for the 2014-15 project though. The 2016 project is on this, is on like 2nd Avenue in this downtown area. That we had 2 projects, right, that were back to back. And so when they were paving down Main Street past that property, that was in 2015.
They didn't go past though. They went up to that. They went up to, and that's where they started.
But these assessments are for the projects that were done down in this part of town. It's a different district, a different project area. than-
But we're on the list.
Because you were a secondary beneficiary or
Yeah, because you had a
Benefit
secondary on
secondary.
that property, yeah, because everyone in town got a secondary. But you're not a
Okay.
primary.
How many residents in town had the cap placed on their residence? And what was the cap for?
The cap was because we did, instead of doing by linear front footage for property, we did a square footage, and so we put a cap on that because, just to make it, we felt more fair if we put everyone's, like, if you had a really large property in town, and we didn't put a cap on that, and we used square footage, you're gonna get like huge assessments that we didn't feel were fair. So to lower that down a little bit and more evenly distribute things, we did put a cap.
Yeah, because they did it, we had 614,196 square feet.
Right, and that's why we had put a cap on that. Other reason is when you have a secondary assessment, you're looking at what's the benefit to you. So benefit to your property versus benefit to, you know, advertised properties in town, things like that. For a secondary assessment, we all get, obviously we have access to the roads, things like that. And so that's why we also put a cap on, so we're not unfairly putting an assessment on somebody. Does that make sense? Instead of doing your full square footage. and
It
having to
does,
pay
but
that amount.
two-thirds of that property, majority of it is Highway 83. And it's not, it would be state, where a smaller portion would be city. And there's a lot of coulee. A lot of coulee.
Right, but it's also, could be considered is that considered agriculture or is it residential?
Well,
You have the house on it,
We're over
right?
14 acres, so it, technically, it's agricultural.
Okay,
And there's really no comparables in town
right,
to the property.
but you have
either.
that rental house on that property, right? So there's a home?
Well, it's not being rented.
But there's a home on
There
that
is a
property.
dwelling, yes.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
There were 22 properties
that were capped in the secondary,
in the secondary.
okay, so the 22 were capped.
22 residential properties were capped
Okay,
in the secondary.
thank you.
If you don't mind me speaking up, one of the areas, if you don't mind me using your naming lane, she had a large land area, but it was divided up. So she didn't get capped out because she had multiple lots. So she had her property all put together. So now she hits the cap and then
So they're subdivided, is that what you're saying is because they're subdivided or?
no, well, what happened is she had, I think, 3 parcels down there, and they were all large parcels. She owns approximately, is it 4 or 5 acres?
About 5 acres.
Something like that. What she did was she went to the engineer and then they did a survey, and then they put all of her property as one parcel. So that way, instead of her hitting like 3 caps,
Mm-hmm.
she just hits 4. And that's where like your property is like one big area. So-
Right, with our primary, it's all together, so, we
And
have.
that's how we look at it. Anything within the city limits is what we look at as part of the plot. And then all the little slivers that all the property owners own. And like, you own 14 acres, so, but we felt, the committee, that we need to put a cap on this because there are a number of large property owners. You know, Woody Lane did, she got assessed a couple big assessments. And so-
That was in years past, I think you need to
Right,
point that
right,
out.
in years
It wasn't
past.
just now.
So now, right, so now she's, like, so what we've done, we've looked at you in a couple of the 22, and we said, we need to put a cap on this to the point where it makes it unreasonable for you to even own that property.
Right,
Or your assessment might be 3 or 4 times the amount.
well, and, a lot of the property that we own, like you said, it's coulee, and so therefore it won't ever be able to be developed, and we understood that when we purchased the property. But having, looking at other properties that are comparable, it's hard to make it understand that that's
Included here either.
on the fair side.
We've looked at coulee lots, we've looked at riverview views and this and that, and there is some value into some of this because it gives you the privilege of not somebody building in front of you or giving you the privacy that you want. I mean, that's what we've been explained to on working on doing assessments. We do go out and look to see if it's property that it's like totally unusable. In the past, they have made adjustments, but we take each case by case to go look at it. I know some of the past committees have made adjustments, and then the property owner turns around, sells a lot, and somebody builds a house. So it's like, so we have to do our due diligence and try to be careful on that too. So.
The original assessment was 22,000 on your property. I mean, just to give you perspective as to what the cap was. So without the cap, based off of the .036 of the rest of this, that secondary pay, the initial amount was 22,000. And then that was all taken away. You went down to the 24, and then the rest of the district absorbs the remainder of the extra cost. I mean, that's how they fold it. That's how those caps get folded back in.
Does anyone else have any questions, comments?
Does that answer your question? I mean,
Somewhat.
okay. I know like this year, we actually lowered the cap compared to the last assessment.
Well, we use the same percentage, so.
Right. But it was a lower amount
Right.
because the numbers were lower, so that kind of helped people out a little bit more this time.
Well, I guess as being here 15 years, my concern is, we did the city improvements to the city, and the impact is people are moving out. And that's not, the intent was not to make the improvements to see people leave, and, that the special assessments are making a determination whether people are staying or not because it's adding on to their mortgage, and they simply can't afford to live here. And there's more than one household I've talked to that's, working to move out or in the country, because of, what's been happening.
Well, I guess what part of the, because I've been on the assessment committee for a while, and then what's happened was over a 30-year span, our infrastructure of our roads, sewers and stuff,
Right.
they weren't being taken care of maybe as soon as they should have been. So now everything is kind of hitting us all at once. The whole town is like, the roads are crummy all over. So one of the impacts is if we didn't do the second, or the primary and the secondary, I'm just going to say, if you were a primary and we did your street, on average, the assessment would have been $20,000. Instead, you're only getting half, so it's $10,000. The rest of the city is spreading out that, so you're not hit with such a high number. And then when the other streets are done, then you're getting like another $1,000 here and another $1,000 there every time there's a citywide assessment. So that impact is spread out further, so you're not like, you know, getting hit with such a large, especially if you do a street, which is like approximately 20,000, and then you get a sewer on top of it, because they're going to do that. They're going to tear up the street, they're going to replace the sewer. So that's another $9,000 to $11,000 there. So now you're talking $30-some thousand assessment right away. The only thing is water and sewer, the people that are directly affected have to pay that. But the streets, we spread that out so that over time, eventually, all the streets will be repaired, and your special assessments will be spread out over time. So eventually, you're probably going to, in 10 years, 15 years, this is just an approximation, you're probably going to end up with that $20,000 street. But it's not going to be like hitting you right away. It'll be spread out over
Right.
how long the projects take for the city to finally get all the street improvements stuff.
So at the end of 20 years, is there a projection that there's going to be another project that we're just going to start over, or is this supposed to last 30 years? You know, what's the projection on time frame?
Normal, well, Larry, if you don't mind speaking,
Right.
it's 20 years if you take care of your streets, approximately, plus, right?
Yeah, it should be the 20 to 25 years, you know, if you take care of it. You know, do some chip sealing when you need to, you know, 10, 15 years down the road. You know, just keep up with it. Hopefully, you know, 25 years, hopefully.
And
You know, that's about what they are, you know.
And what's the time frame on water and sewer systems? Are those good for
Those should last.
30 years, 40 years?
Oh, yeah, they should last 50 years easy. I mean, it's PVC, it's, you know, the old cast iron would rust through.
Sure.
And there's been a lot of different materials used in water and sewer over the years, but I mean, PVC has definitely been a godsend as far as water and sewer. So it should be fine.
About 2010, when I lived up on Fifth, you know, they came down and they didn't do the street, it was just a sewer replacement. They tore up half the street. But they said they couldn't believe that we were getting water down our street because they showed me a section of the pipe, and it was the dirt and stuff was filtering the city water. They were that way.
The old cast iron.
Yeah, the old,
Yeah.
and so, I mean, that's just one of those. But now that street, I believe when they did that PVC was in there, so they didn't have to do a total repair at one, you know, but that's another issue. But some of the streets, when they do sewers and stuff, have already been repaired in the past, you know, so they're good to go. Because like where I moved down there, the street is bad, but the sewer system has been upgraded. So, and then when I tied in with my house, I made sure that I tied into the new fire line and then, you know, the good sewer and blah, 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 so. But someday when they come down there to do the asphalt, I'll get a primary. And that's just, you know, it's just of those things.
You know,
And
and
you see, when the commission decides to do another project, then that'll be up to them to,
right, these guys just divvy out the assessments, they don't decide on the projects. But, you know, in not too far in the future, you know, we're probably looking at doing across the highway and then up by the Cenex Tower up that way. You know, because those people have helped pay for all these projects, and it's going to be their turn, you know. Granted, everybody here would probably be a secondary on that one also, you know, where they would be primaries up there. But really, I don't know if we have to do water and sewer up there, because that's all PVC, so it might be a lot less. Just have to see how it works out.
And that's supposed to be when?
I would say in the next year or two, I'm guessing. Yeah, it's hard to say, you know, hard to say.
Someone else have anything else? All right, well, if no one has anything, I think we can, if you guys can come up and we can look more at the maps with your sewers and things like that and write down the information so we can figure out how to look into that more. That would be great. And if anyone else wants to have any other questions, you can come up to the table. Otherwise, I think we're all set.
Thank you, people.
Did you get a new map? Something you can read? I was gonna
Yes.
see-
Oh, just a guess.
I was gonna see my
Did I
two
take
sewers
a
on
photo?
there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just to see.
Two sewers and one water.
Well, and that's why we did have the engineer come to the meeting.
I wanna see the-
I know, we had questions.
I
I
just
know
come to my house
what to
and
expect.
take pictures.
Right?
Holly?
Have the inside.
Just real quick.
Watch the tape.
I don't know, will this one be online?
Hey, it can be the back.
Holly,
I have no idea.
Okay, see you guys.
See you. Now you get to go home. Well,
So, where's her house?
St. Pauline.
Yeah.
So that's the house. And then there's
It's a big lot.
I don't know if her house was over both of them.
Is your house on both those lots?
We got
I
6
think
lots.
it is.
Small lot, 25 by 75.
and Joan, I believe Eric said too, it was PVC coming out of both properties.
Who?
It was
She has-
newer pipe coming out that they hooked up to.
20, 21, 22, 23,
I've
24,
never been up
25
none of that
blocks.
for 100 years.
So it's all one
I don't-
parcel, but there were two wet lines coming out. Yep. That was one of the first ones that we had questioned and.
Right.
Well, we'll take a look at it.
Because when we do look at doing assessments, we look at the maps, we look at the project, and we do a head count just to make sure that, you know, everything.
So you guys ain't full of crap.
Right, because we didn't want to give you two assessments if there really wasn't two sewer lines. We don't want to give people
Yeah.
assessments for
Two-
things that
two
don't
sewer lines
exist.
and one water, that doesn't make sense.
Well, that's, if you want to take the old Methodist church, at one time, Dennis, there was 3 sewer lines?
3 sewer lines come out.
And one, yeah, because of the old, well, the improvements, but I think there's only 2 coming out of there now, right? So, it's one of those things where,
So they'll have to determine it.
right,
And the same with yours. If your house sewer comes to 8th Street,
I'm pretty sure it does. It
But
looks like that's where the
I
pipes
don't know
go.
how we'll determine that. you know.
well,
Do you have the
but-
map
that was
upstairs, or-
yeah,
It's 2 pages past.
but it could come out and then bend and then go out to the street,
You know,
possibly.
it looks like from my basement, this is 8th Street, and then the pipe goes here and there, and then I presume this way.
Right,
Yeah.
but if you connect to that new main, then you're getting benefit from that.
Yeah, well, you know,
But even though if they didn't tear up your street, but your sewer line ties in, because we had a number of those last year that they went down through an alleyway and come in, they said, well, it's only one pipe, and there's 3 sewers hooked into it.
So it was listed wrong.
But it was made to handle 3
Well, I
lines.
guess, you know, in that respect, I think the post office was
No,
not.
it should have been 84,
assessed
it
anything.
was listed as 80.
And I
Right,
think
their
their
sewer goes to
their
8th
sewer
Street.
goes to 8th Street.
Like 1, 2, 3, sewer is on 8th Street.
Yeah, there was no sewer.
Should have been lots 4
Oh, I
and
see,
5.
because this is lots 1 to 3, that's what that one
Because
says.
that's her house, and
Right.
that's the house one.
Right.
And
And
so
if they hooked up any line.
Well,
Well, where
Second
Margie's
parking
house
lot.
was,
Margie's house, yeah,
According to this, it
Where you
looks
just
like
have a garage.
it's,
yeah, right. yeah.
was supposed to be on this parcel, not that parcel, the wrong
But
parcel.
I don't know that they hooked anything up there, I don't know why they would.
They hooked her.
well, when
They
they go down.
did this lot,
there's a house.
it was listed in there.
I mean,
On the
they-
assessment roll, it was, her house lot was listed, and I imagine it's because of the, you know, the street assessment stuff, they were picked out. This parcel that you have, which is 220184, this one received the sewer.
It did?
Yes.
Okay. Then this is lots 4 and 5.
That's lots, that is lot 4 and 5, block 14 of the.
Right, yeah, and see, that's not included in your special assessment list.
In the list here, no, 83 was listed instead.
Okay, but then,
But this one did not get it, but this one did.
then you should put that over here,
Yes.
and then not over here.
They'll make that
Yes,
correction. yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I guess what I'm thinking is that when you need to replace the
Right.
sewer over here,
Oh,
then I'm gonna get
absolutely.
dinged again.
Yeah,
Right.
no, it'll go onto this parcel.
Okay, okay.
And this green line here is the sewer line that indicates that there was a sewer associated with that parcel.
Really?
Mhm.
Well, I suppose there was at one time, but
At one time.
no, you know, I mean, there's nothing there now. There's no water, there's no sewer, just rock. That's all.
No, leave it open. Here.
But it is a buildable property. and that's,
Yeah.
I think, where it comes in.
Well, I
You
mean,
know,
I suppose that's
yeah,
possible, but,
yeah.
you know, another thing too is what, I mean, that would make it correct, I think, if you
Mhm.
assessed it there and not
Right.
here. But the other thing I was thinking is that could you do like 3/5 here and 2/5 here?
It has to go to the parcel.
Okay.
And so this parcel would have pavement on it, this one would have a little pavement also, but this one has pavement as well.
Yeah, this had pavement here,
Yeah,
and also back here on the alley.
And then you got
That,
water, and did you have water on this parcel?
I have water on that parcel.
I'm sorry, I look at a lot of them.
Yeah, yeah, no, there's water,
Yeah.
because they did the water line here. You know,
Oh,
on
there it
East
is
Street.
here. Yeah,
East
okay.
Street, yeah. They didn't do the sewer.
Yeah, no, the sewer just came down second, they didn't have that. They did sewer back this direction,
Yeah.
from here on.
You know, just, maybe it's for the commissioner's information, is when they're gonna do like a city water street improvement, it's helpful for the property owner to come, you know, if you had like Margie's house, I call it, is your garage, and say, hey, there's no more sewer, there's no more water there, it's all been shut down.
Yeah.
So when you come down, if there's a pipe, you know, I'll take the liability of don't hook up to it. Right, Larry, does that
The water
make any sense?
actually, I think the city shut the water off.
Or,
It kind of does, but if somebody would buy that and wants to then, you know, put, say, a house on there, then you gotta dig up the new street, which
Right.
is insane, you know.
it is very expensive. I've been,
Yeah.
because when you do an improvement, because when I did it, it's $1,000 for this, and then I gotta pay for the asphalt, and I gotta do
The digging and
this.
everything, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea is to get it in there so that development can happen.
I'm sorry that I had those numbers mixed up. My apologies.
How come, I never added up the figures, but how come the assessments for the sewer is so much? Like 11,000 for the lots?
Maybe you got two.
It depends on,
I got 4.
well, we go by how many users, and then how much the project is, and divide that up equally. That's how it works. So sometimes if it's, you know, $100,000 project and there's 10 people, well, it's $10,000 a piece. But if there's 8, then it's gonna be a little, you know, they're gonna have to divide that up because you're the sole benefactors from that sewer project, so.
What, can you show me on the map where that sewer project was?
Read that now. I read that.
Sewer's the tank. Sewer's the tank.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you read.
We're kicking.
That's good, that means a lot, that was for all of us.
At first, I thought it was probably just a little bit, and I just couldn't figure out how.
Oh, this is 7th Street, 8th Street, and you are
Here,
here,
right,
right?
yeah. They shouldn't have
Right there, so.
But yours got fixed when it goes down the hill. Does your sewer goes towards the alley?
Yeah.
Right,
Right, and then it comes
You
over
got tied
here.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, comes down, and goes over here, that's why. Yeah. Because there's no sewer in front there.
No, right. So the-
Time for you to go home and go to bed.
And the sewer and water both are higher this assessment due to fewer users.
Pauline.
Not as many just spread it out. And that number is not mistake is really,
That's what
Yeah,
I
the
told the
cost is
engineers
there.
that we
Okay.
chose. So,
but
So
yeah,
I
the
just
more
want to
the
know if you guys
users,
will be
cheaper
recessing
it
and then
gets.
getting
Yeah.
back
Per
home,
user.
or what?
yes.
Yeah, yeah, it's, yeah, it's like just put that in the records.
Okay, so what do we want to do for the so we have to, how do we tell, like?
Have you ever met Merle?
Well,
You probably talked to her on the phone.
Do you have a phone?
Hi, Sharon Henderson. Sharon, yeah, I've met you, yeah.
I don't remember meeting in person, I've talked to her on the phone.
Yeah, I've been over at the city hall I got a building permit from you, yeah, so, yeah.
I see it's when
Okay, who gets a
I
building?
mean, if anything, they could,
Oh,
well, what they done is, or die,
thank you.
down their sewer, and look at the manhole, and try to see if it comes out, but, you know, because it could be that, say you have a house, who knows who the contractor was, and